Psalms 23:1. King David wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." He didn't have any wants. Of course he didn't have any wants. Every last want of his was fulfilled by God, including his strong Middle Eastern sex drive. In other words, he didn't have to suffer a case of sexual frustration. Not only did he have his wives, a whole hundreds of them, he had his concubines. Basically, women you bring in, you take care of them in exchange for being able to have sex with them. Of course, look at Ravi Zacharias and Jimmy Swaggart. Jesus Christ feels the deepest need in any man, even deeper than the sexual need. But had these men, Jimmy Swaggart and Ravi Zacharias, been living in the time of David, they would have truly been able to say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," because not only the deep spiritual need was met, their sexual drive would be met. And let me tell you something. The sex drive, fulfilling the sex drive, is an almost spiritual experience. In fact, I think it is a spiritual experience. Maybe. I'm not sure why I would. Maybe it is. Yeah. But a spiritual experience nonetheless is not as deep as the spiritual experience of having Jesus come in. These people, when you had that need, when you have any need, even if it's a lesser need, even if you got the deepest need of Jesus filling your spirit, that deep satisfaction, when you had those blue bowls, that sexual frustration, that is like a dripping faucet on you when you're trying to go to sleep, and these people finally just succumb and go out and get the rocks off. Forgive my slang. Because that need must be fulfilled. In the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, when people believe if you had the wrong kind of sex, you're going to go to hell. You were damned and you cannot be forgiven. They actually believed, actually had Christians in the year 300 who would refuse to get baptized until as close as they were dying for fear that they might commit a sin, because they believed if you sinned at the baptism, there was no forgiveness for that sin. Look it up. I assure you, if you read those old books, old books, I'm not talking about the Reformed Calvinist crap. No, they're not crap. The Reformed Calvinist theology, I'm sorry for calling it crap. Calvinism is crap, but not the truths that it teaches about the death, burial, and resurrection. They were actually, when they had wet dreams, what would happen is, so terrified of they would go in hell of sex that their minds would create female demons that were raping them. And when it was all over, they'd have that cum all over their body, because the sex drive must be fulfilled. What is it Paul said? But if they cannot contain themselves, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn in sexual desire. And that was my case. I wanted to be a good-looking guy, have the long arms to get my sexual satisfaction. Yeah. I get self-gratification in knowing that my elbow to wrist are longer than those hot girls. And since my arms are shorter, I got an eternal case of the blue balls. Quote-unquote sexual frustration. And I'm still a virgin. I don't want sex. I don't want to get married. Screw that. Vaginal sex to me is the most disgusting. Kissing, getting the girl slobber all over in your mouth, getting that club. I'm gonna be graphic, but sex to me is disgusting. I too had the Lord when I had Jesus, my deepest spiritual needs satisfied. Oh my goodness, even deeper than my need for the long arms. But I was deprived of having the sensual satisfaction of having those long forms, and it led to where I am today. Jesus has forsaken me because I denied him. But see, he didn't meet all my needs. But I understand what's going on. Jesus demands you to die to yourself, to your carnal needs, even if necessary, to your sexual needs. If your sexual desires are not for one wife, if you have homosexual desires, God cannot fill those desires. It cannot happen. You have to die to them. You just shit out of luck. That's one need you never had fulfilled. Never, ever, ever, ever. Unless you want to forfeit your salvation. And I believe you can lose your salvation or give it away. Is Ravi Zacharias in heaven? I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. But had David been living in the days times, maybe David himself would have. I don't know. Would David had loved God so much to not be caught in a sexual scandal? If he lived in a country where multiple wives were still permitted, but where Christian doctrine said the husband of one wife, and he had read the verse, would he have abstained from having multiple wives and concubines? Notice in Psalm 119 he says, "Oh how I love thy law. Oh how I love thy law." Yet David, did he not know of Deuteronomy 17:17? Of course there were no verses separation and chapter separation back then, but did he not know it in Deuteronomy 17:17? It says the king is not to multiply to themselves wives, lest they turn away his heart from the Lord. Well, did he not know about that? Why didn't he not love God enough to obey that law? Unless he justified it by saying, reading the other part of the verse, the king shall not multiply to himself wives, lest they turn his heart, because he knew he had a heart for God. But look at King Solomon. 700 wives and 300 concubines. Either that or it's 500 wives or 500 concubines. It says the Lord loved him. Not once did God send a prophet to Solomon to rebuke him for his breaking of the law of God. Not once. Not once. I guess the Lord loved him so much. He didn't love me enough to give me my satisfaction of having long arms. I really do need that. I really do need that. And it's so bad, so strong as a desire. If I could be saved, yet to enjoy my fulfillment of my sexual need, I'd have to burn in hell for a year before I enter into heaven, purgatory. I'd say, okay, I accept. That's how strong my desire is to have the longer arms, be a good-looking guy, and look in my 20s. God is just, I'll say that. I agree with that. But I cannot say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I could say, I was able to say that spiritually when I had Jesus. I wish I had Jesus back, even though I have to give up my sexual desire. I don't want that. I don't like. I will not like it. But I cannot say the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want, because He cannot fulfill my sexual need. Oh, get a wife who has shorter arms than you. That beats the point. I want longer arms than all those females who are as tall as me, or shorter. My forearms are shorter than girls who are 4 inches shorter than me. The only way it could be fulfilled righteously is God was to give me longer forearms and give me a wife who was tall and had longer forearms than most, if not all, those 6 foot tall girls. You know, with the exception of the real freak cases who have unreasonably long arms. Then that's the only way that God could fulfill that need. Yep, had Ravi Zacharias and Jimmy Swaggart been living in the time of David, they would have been model. Maybe even gotten interest into the Hebrews 11 Hall of Faith. And at the same time, been able to satisfy their sex drives, to satisfy their dicks that worked. But had David been living today's time, I wonder what he would have done. Would he have loved God enough to abstain and keep one wife? What would happen? What would he have done? Now, David was not born again, but he had God filling that spiritual need. Even back then, for Christ, there was a spiritual need, and God filled his spiritual need. God filled my spiritual need, but I had so deep of a need for the longer arms, and he just wouldn't, at least to be a good-looking guy, he just wouldn't feel that, satisfy that need. Maybe he was testing me. Maybe, and yet, because I failed the test, he won't take me back and forgive me. Why won't Jesus take me back? And look at how ugly I look. I just want to ball up my fist and take my fist and bust myself in the face for how old and ugly I look. But I promised God I wouldn't hit myself anymore. Maybe it's the lighting. I'm one ugly mother. You get the picture. Fat. If I knew I'd go to heaven, if I knew Jesus was still in my life, is still with me in my spirit, even though I'm going through the torment, thinking I've committed the unpardonable sin, I'd give serious thoughts to killing myself with these unmet needs. That's how strong it is. I look so ugly and fat. So close to being a good guy, but so far. If I knew for certain I'd go to heaven, I just might think about killing myself.